Back to what I was talking about, though, this release from the Justice Department by the Attorney General Loretta Lynch about attacks on minorities since the election took place. She says the report shows a 67% increase in hate crimes committed against Muslim Americans. It also showed increases in the number of hate crimes committed against Jewish people, African Americans, and LGBT individuals. Overall, she says, the number of reported hate crimes increased 6%, a number that does not account for the many hate crimes that may go unreported out of shame or fear. So, Mark, for that reason, I think that some in America might be concerned about Jeff Sessions' comments, even if they did take place 30 years ago.
Yeah, no doubt. And we certainly have heard this when the speculation was centering around the fact that Jeff Sessions was going to be nominated to be the head of the Justice Department. A couple things, though, I think we have to keep in mind. One is he has denied making the comments. So, it is a he said versus he said type of issue. Second thing is, he has served in the Senate for several terms right now and has had to address this in the past. There's no doubt he will be asked this during his nomination hearing. And in fact, we've already heard from Democratic senators who say that they plan to do so, and that he should expect a full vetting, a full, fair vetting. In the end, I think that Jeff Sessions is going to get nominated and confirmed by the U.S. Senate as the new head of the Justice Department. But there are going to be a lot of questions around what he has said and what direction he's going to take it. And I do think we have to point out as well is that for all this talk about how Jeff Sessions, might dismantle certain parts of the Justice Department around civil rights, that's going to be very difficult to do. There's no question about that. And I think there's going to be an incredible amount of scrutiny on the Trump administration. So while the fears should certainly drive people to maybe move to action, the fact of the matter is I think it is hard to put in place what a lot of these fears are thinking at this point.
Okay, so you guys stick around. I'm going to take a break. We'll be back with much more in the newsroom. Okay, things are happening very quickly this morning. We have another transition of power alert for you right now. My panel is back with me. But first, let's get to Mark Preston. So tell us the latest.
So it's official now, Carol, as we've been reporting this morning, that the three appointments, the three nominations have been made. It's been officially done. Let me just tell you what Donald Trump has said about these three gentlemen very quickly. On Jeff Sessions, he describes Jeff, he says, Jeff has been a highly respected member of the U.S. Senate for 20 years. He's a world-class legal mind and considered a truly great attorney general and U.S. attorney in the state of Alabama. Jeff is greatly admired by legal scholars and virtually everyone who knows him. In regards to Michael Flynn, he says, I am pleased that Lieutenant General Michael Flynn will be by my side as we work to defeat radical Islamic terrorism, navigate geopolitical challenges, and keep America safe at home and abroad. And as for Mike Pompeo, who was nominated for the CIA director, he says he will be a brilliant and unrelenting leader for our intelligence community to ensure the safety of Americans and our allies. So, as you said, Carol, things are moving very quickly. Just yesterday, there were a lot of questions about when we would actually see names put to paper officially, and we have seen that this morning.
Okay, so let's continue our discussion with David Farenthold and Mark Preston and Jette Kucinich and Jim Sciutto. Jim Sciutto, I want to focus on the National Security Advisor pick, General Mike Flynn, because he is a very controversial figure because basically, in a nutshell, he says that Americans are justified in their fear of Muslims. What more can you tell us about the general?
Well, I think, Carol, in all honesty, we can go further than saying controversial, right? I mean, he has repeated offensive statements, statements that can only be described as offensive during the campaign. We're talking about Sessions with some possible statements 3 years ago. I'm just going to read a couple of tweets from General Flynn in the last several months during the campaign. I dare Arab and Persian world leaders to step up and declare their Islamic ideology sick and must be healed. Not Islamic terrorism or radical Islamic terrorism, but the Islamic ideology itself as sick. He also tweeted earlier, fear of Muslims is rational. Please forward this to others. So you have those kinds of statements during the campaign. But beyond statements about Muslims, Carol, he has expressed real differences with what has been U.S. foreign policy priorities for some time, saying, for instance, that the real enemies of the U.S. are not Russia or Assad, but in his view, ISIS, that one is obvious, but saying neocon liberals here in the U.S., talking about a realignment of where the U.S. is in terms of Russia. And this, of course, is very topical because we know the statements that Donald Trump said during the campaign. And listen, I talked to a lot of folks in the U.S. military who are very concerned about Russia's military advances. So this is not a party thing. It's not just Democrats who say that or Hillary Clinton. It is people inside the defense establishment here. So you now have a man with the ear of the president who has a dramatically different view of the threat posed from Russia than many in the defense establishment here in the U.S.
Let's focus on Russia for just a second. And David, I want you to take a look at this because after Mike Flynn left the Obama administration, he started this international consulting business. And then he was paid to appear on Russian state television. And after that appearance, he appeared at this gala with Vladimir Putin. Putin turned this picture into a propaganda tool. Now, Mike Flynn is an intelligence officer, so it does kind of make you pause, right?
It certainly does. I mean, I don't think any of us could have imagined a year ago that we would have a new national security advisor who had been literally paid by the Russian government until recently, and who had sat at a banquet right next to Vladimir Putin. I think there's going to be a lot of tests for folks in this next administration, and one of them will be the people in the Pentagon, the sort of career employees, the uniformed officers, who are going to have to contend with a radically different view on Russia and the threat it poses.
And along with it, this idea being floated around of a Muslim registry, which many people in America fear. Well, I guess I should ask the question this way, Jackie. Are the fears justified?
I mean, it's something that shouldn't even be talked about, frankly. It's unfortunate that we have to discuss it, and we should keep talking about it so it doesn't happen.
All right, I have to leave it there. Thanks to all of you for your insight. It's so helpful this morning with, things are changing so fast, and it's so helpful.